Good afternoon, and welcome to the Granada Theatre. We're so glad you're here to help us celebrate the Granada's centennial year. You are here for the 6th of a series of films that we're calling Santa Barbara Home Movies. That does not mean stay home and watch movies. That means these movies are made by people, artists, and filmmakers who call Santa Barbara their home. And this afternoon, you get to see Holes, and you get to listen to the author and the director and one of the actors. Let me remind you, the book came out in 1998. The movie came out in 2003. That is warp speed for Hollywood to do anything. And those of you who know the story know why children are so engaged with the story, and here's why. All children, and I'm looking at all of you children, you all know that the thing you really care about and want to know more about are yellow-spotted lizards, long-lost treasures, and old-world curses that can determine your fate. Is it true? That's what I thought. So before I slow this down in any way, so we can get straight to you hearing from the people who are going to help you enjoy this film even more than you thought you would, Ross Melnick, who is our historian, he thinks he hangs out at UCSB as well, but not so much anymore, is going to lead a discussion for you with the author, the director, and the only actor on the planet who could have been cast as Zero. So please welcome Ross Melnick, Louis Sachar, Andy Davis, and Khleo Thomas.
There's more than I thought we were going to be here.
Thanks for being here. Louis, I'm going to start with you. I wonder if you could just tell us what the inspiration for the book was and what you hope to share with audiences by writing it.
What
you hope to share with audiences by writing it.
Boy, when I write a book, I just want to find a way to engage with the reader and hope they want to keep turning the pages. So I don't have any real agenda when I start a book. It's just except to help promote reading.
Yeah. And Andy, how did you discover this book? You know, when did you get involved in the process of getting it made? And what was that whole backstory of discovering Holes and then getting it to the screen?
Well, there's someone in the audience by the name of Teresa Tucker Davies who was head of development for my company. And she said, you got to read this book. And she said, I know what you want to get out of doing action movies. And my wife and my daughter loved it. And I said, sure, let's see what we can do. And so a guy named Mike Medavoy put up some money for an option. And my team, Lowell Blank, was around, and a few other people who were part of our company. We started figuring out how to get it made. And we got a call from these guys who had gone to Tufts University, who was a strong Catholic and a Jew. And they went to this billionaire named Phil Anschutz, and they said, can we start a movie company and a book company? And he said yes. He wanted to make family movies. And that's how that came together. And then Disney found out about it because Dick Cook, who was the head of the studio's daughter, liked it on their way to school in the morning. And so a lot of movies are made by the fact that executives at movie companies know their kids like something.
And you both sort of worked on the adaptation. I mean, you really felt that Louis was the only person who really could adapt this into a screenplay. And this, Louis, is just your first screenplay, correct?
Right, yeah. And when Andy suggested that I write it, my first reaction was, no, get someone who knows how to write a screenplay. But I had a lot of help from Andy and from Teresa and Lowell, and it was just a great experience. I remember being in his office, and every scene was a little 3x5 card on the wall, and we kept shifting them around and trying to figure out how the movie would actually be written. And then Andy went and said, okay, this scene, he'd go by each card, and he said, this scene should take 30 seconds, this one a minute, this one 15 seconds. And then I was sent home to
The editor would argue with that.
Yeah.
So you're working together on the script, and then you start thinking about casting. And then, of course, I'm going to get to Khleo in a moment. But you're thinking about casting. This cast is enormous, and there's an incredible cast, not just of the young actors, which, Khleo and Shia LaBeouf and many others, but the adult cast is Eartha Kitt, Jon Voight, Henry Winkler, Patricia Arquette, Sigourney Weaver, and I could go on. What was the process of casting this? And then, of course, what was the process of casting all these amazing young actors?
Well, Kathy Sandrich is in the audience. Raise your hand, Kathy. And her partner, Amanda Mackey, whose daughters are in the audience, are continuing to be casting agents. They were the casting agents, directors, whatever, gangsters, whatever. And they were able to get these people to say yes. It was a combination of recommendations and my own thoughts about who could do them. And we met some wonderful people. And because the book was so popular, Sigourney's daughter said, "You have to play this witch. You have to be the bad warden." So once again, the kids made the movie happen.
And Khleo, do you remember what the casting process was like? Do you remember going in for your audition? What was that whole process like for you? You were pretty young back then.
Yeah, I was around 13 years old, and I remember the very first audition, and then I remember the call back where I got a chance to meet Andy, and then we had the chance to do the chemistry read. And the chemistry read day was my very first time understanding what that process was like, where they bring in other actors who are maybe, their final choices of maybe who they want to play this role or this role. And I remember looking at the list of actors that were coming in for Zero, and I remember it being way longer than everyone else's. Way longer than Zigzag, than Armpit. And then I got the chance to do the scene with Shia. And it's in the scene where Caveman and Zero are talking, and Zero's getting the chance to tell his story about, how he got there, how he got to Camp Green Lake, what was happening right before he did get there, where, he doesn't have a relationship with his mom, he can't find her. So in that moment, I think Andy also directed me and Shia to ad-lib a bit and just see what builds from there. And the rest is history for me, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity. So thank you. Thank you.
So when you get cast, you're in the film. What are your memories of working on this film? It was a little warm, right? The temperature was a little hot in the desert. What are some of your favorite memories of working on this film with the cast and with everyone else?
We shot this in the summer, so it was really like summer vacation. Like for all the kids in here, you guys get like 3 months off in your summer vacation. You can do whatever you want, right? For us, we were 3 months in 110-degree weather every day making this movie, but at the same time, you had an incredible cast who was having such a great time bringing these characters to life. We shot it in Ridgecrest, California. I had my brother with me, my mom, my dad, so it was vacation for them as well, but a little steamy. Everyone definitely came home with a sunburn every now and then, so it's okay though.
And Andy, you had like a kind of almost like a boot camp for the actors, so they were prepared to work in this temperature. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was? And the other question there is, how many holes actually did get dug?
That's a state secret. Let's see. Alex Daniels, who's the stunt coordinator, who plays the cop who arrests Jon Voight at the end of the movie in Sigourney. He's a wonderful guy, comes from the theater, but he's also a stuntman, and he had a great way with kids. And he just made them get in shape and literally learn how to working hard and get their hands toughened up, and then they had to do it also on the set.
And Louis, you've worked on this screenplay with Andy. You're looking at the book that you've written suddenly come to life. I'm curious about your thoughts of what it was like to see your book come to life on screen.
It was surreal. It was, I could remember sitting in my office when was writing the scene about Elia carrying the pig up the mountain, and it was just this kind of humorous tale I came up with one morning. And here we are on the set, And, Andy's directing the actor who's holding a real pig over his shoulder, and it's scratching him. And Andy's saying, now hold the pig on the other shoulder. And it was just so surreal to see that coming to life.
I didn't finish your question. We have 5,000 holes, of which 4,800 of them were created by Bill Mesa. Raise your hand, Bill. He's our visual effects supervisor, who created the holes and the lizards and moved lakes around and moved cities around for us in the early days of digital work. And Maher Ahmed, our dear production designer, dug 200. So there are 5,000 altogether.
It's funny that you asked about the lizards, or you mentioned the lizards, because I was going to ask you, they're Australian bearded dragons that you painted, right? And most people say don't work with kids and don't work with animals, and you did both. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about your thoughts about what this was like, because not all of your films have such an incredible young cast. What was it like to direct all of these actors?
Well,
like
I would talk to the lizards, and I'd say, now listen, tell these kids how to behave.
Yeah, naturally. That's an AD, right? Yeah.
No, it was great. It was, everybody loved this book so much, and they all were sort of in. And there were all these kids who had never been in a movie before, hardly ever acted before, who were living it up, And we had the support of the studio and the money, and it was good. It was very tight, but we had everything we needed.
And Khleo, I'm curious, when you look back at this film now, and you've had a huge career and a multifaceted career ever since, what's it like for you to see yourself young and to think about all the things that are about to happen to you over the next 20 years?
Listen, I told my mom I wanted to be an actor when I was 5 years old, and I booked the role of Zero at 13. So between those years, it's just audition after audition, small role here, small role there, and then I get the chance to do this, and I'm relocated to the middle of the desert for 3 months. And I'm taking all of this experience in and wondering, okay, what happens next? I'll be honest, Andy, I don't think I've ever told you this. Louis, I've never told you this. I thought I was still auditioning the first 2 months of filming. It didn't register that this was actually happening.
Lose that.
Yeah. So here we are, almost, I want to say 21 years later, and not only is the book still a required reading book in certain curriculums, but teachers get a chance to let their students read the book and watch the movie right afterwards. So I love the fact that this story has given back to generation after generation, and I'm forever grateful to have a role on my resume that can stand the test of time. I make a little joke about it. I feel like I'm the Black Harry Potter in a way, so I'm cool with that. I'm very cool with that. I don't mind the Zero nickname at all, and just forever grateful.
If I can go back to thoughts about what your messaging, which you mentioned, Louis, there is a commentary here about the prison system and child labor. Andy, I'm curious if you could talk just a little bit about what the message of some of this might be for you as a director, what you're hoping maybe to get out there.
It's interesting because when we originally thought about the screening, I thought, well, we'll just a fun kids movie, and we can do all that. But it's got some heavy content, and I'm friends with a woman named Shakti Belway who's here. Shakti, where are you? Okay. Who's basically involved in juvenile justice. She's a kid from Santa Barbara who went to Yale and Stanford and worked in Mississippi helping kids who were in jail and had no way out. And now she's got a national position. And afterwards in the lobby, there'll be some information about when Louis is going to be signing his books afterwards. But anyway, so it's about how do kids get lost in the system? And think about the kids in this movie. I think afterwards, one of the kids went into the system. So it's about something, and yet it's uplifting. And Louis wrote a happy ending.
It also feels like a very American film. The book, obviously, and then the film, that's sort of a perfect kind of 90s melting pot. You've got the Old West, you've got this kind of Latvian immigrant mythology, you've got this kind of heterogeneous, group of kids. Was that part of the sensibility of the moment, Louis? I'm just curious when you were writing it.
Boy, it's hard to remember how ideas came to me 25 years ago. but yeah, I mean, I liked the idea of having this, this old kind of like old world ancestor, and then this larger than life Western part of it, and then the current day, and just blending it all together. And what was really hard was to figure out how to blend it all together, while at the same time telling the current day story was kind of boring because all he did was dig holes every day. And so I ended up solving the two together by having him start digging a hole and then cutting away to either the Old West or to Latvia. And by the time I come back, the hole's finished, and you get the feeling he's been digging all day, but fortunately we didn't have to watch every shovelful.
Khleo, there's an amazing video, and I recommend people watching it. It's a YouTube video of all of you together last year at the Street Food Cinema reunion. And just watching all of you come together organically was really touching. I was obviously not there, but it's really interesting. I'm just curious what it meant to you, even today to see everyone here, but then what it means to you to come back. Because to a certain generation of kids, this is, as you said, Harry Potter, this is a touchstone film. And you're part of something that's deeply embedded in their memories and in their upbringing, their psyches. What's that like for you? You mentioned a little bit. I'm curious just about your connectivity with the people here. You've got cast and crew. And what's it like for you?
It's an amazing feeling. There's not a day that I don't get recognized for this role. And it has given me and my family an amazing journey through life. I embrace all of it, and I love the fact that it gives me the opportunity to connect with the youth in a different generation, years since the movie has come out. But what I like to do is I like to virtually visit classrooms who just read the book and have watched the film. So that to me is very telling of how impactful this is. And it's gonna continue to touch generation after generation, and I'm never not gonna be tired of being called Zero because of that curly-haired kid. And which is crazy because my brother's in here somewhere. Oh, he's way in the back? Yeah, and if you look back there, that almost looks like I'm looking in the past because his hair is just as big as mine up there. But even in that space, man, it's I love the fact that this kid will live on in an amazing way.
And what's the number one question that kids ask you? If there's one that you think you always get or the most likely, what is it?
Ooh, good question. The ones I hear the most are, were the lizards real? Did I really hit Dr. Pendansky with a shovel? And did we really eat onions? People ask me that all the time. And I think our prop master, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Our prop master from the film actually debunked the rumor. Yeah. He did the whole thing of actually it wasn't onions, but yeah, it's a whole thing. Apple. It was an apple, yeah. So yeah, those are the three.
That's great.
It's a good thing you didn't get bit.
Very good thing I didn't get bit. It survived up there.
Well, Andy has a few comments for us, but I have one last question for each one of you before I turn the mic over to him. When we're watching tonight, what's the number one thing you'd like everyone, I'm asking each one of you, what's the number one thing you'd like people to think about while looking at the film? Andy, I'll ask you first.
About kids caring for each other.
Louis?
Yeah, one of the issues I had to deal with when writing it was the relationships between the white and black kids, and I always looked at it as it wasn't about them. They were all the color of dirt. It was between the kids and the adults, and once Stanley dug his first hole, he was accepted by the rest of the kids. They weren't bullying him. They were, he was one of them now.
And Khleo?
For me, when you're watching this film, I hope you get a chance to take away that even on the most rainiest of darkest of days, there's a sunny day ahead.
That's great. Thank you. Andy, you have some thoughts for us.
Well, I just wanted to, I hope it won't take too much time. I want to share some comments we got from some of the people who couldn't be here tonight. Patricia Arquette said, "Wow, I'm sorry I won't be in town. Sending you a big hug and hope it goes great." Sigourney Weaver, "Andy, looks like a great celebration. I am in London rehearsing The Tempest at the Drury Lane Theatre where I play Prospero. Wonderful play, and when we were just in Venice where I received the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement. Holes is a proud part of that work, sending you and Louis and all the gang much love." Shia, "I remember my first kiss. I kept the receipt. Holes is my first film. Cool receipt." And let's see. So what I'd like to do now is show you a video that I got this morning from Tim Blake Nelson. I don't know how we're going to do this. You guys know how to run this? Then we'll come back.
Hello, I'm Tim Blake Nelson. I got to play Dr. Pendanski in Andy Davis's incredible adaptation of Louis Sachar's novel, Holes. It was an absolute honor to play this part and be a part of this project. I owe it all to Andy, Louis, and the incredible cast with which I got to perform in probably one of the best young adult films ever made. What makes Holes so special is that it teaches readers, no matter what the age, Aristotle's notion that every story has a beginning, middle, and end that was then refracted through modernism to say, yes, every story has a beginning, middle, and end, but not necessarily in that order. And that structure can really be anything, and that in storytelling, anything is possible. It was an honor, I'll say again, to be a part of this project. Enjoy the film.
Okay, quickly. So recognizing all who worked on the movies, I've recognized some of you already in the audience, but especially this guy who I've developed a great relationship for, and I'm blessed that he wrote this book. Teresa, Lowell, Kathy Sandrich, Amanda Mackey, Tom Norberg, where are you? This is the great editor who worked with me on this one, and also cut The Guardian, and you watch all the effects that are in this movie, the transitions. He's really responsible for that. Bill Mesa, we talked about. Maher Ahmed. Okay, I'm almost done. We got this movie made, I told you, by Walden Media, Medavoy. Michael Tobes, who built this theater, needs to be recognized, and all the great people who helped fund this theater. It's really special for me. And then Jill and Scott Seltzer and the whole staff of the Libero, the IATSE stage crew, and Shakti Bowe, who will have things in the lobby afterwards where you can all learn more about what her great work is. And last thing is, Louis will be out there doing books. I'm going to have a book signing October 16th for a novel I wrote. I'm promoting myself right now like I don't like to do. And it's going to be across the street at the CEC. Across the street at 7 o'clock, and I'll be signing books with my partner, Jeff Biggers. Thank you. Have a good time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.